In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to model a 3D head from a photo reference. Okay, so the photo reference that I'm going to use is based on this photo. Alright, I have already examined this photo and I've noticed some problems with it. And when I bring this photo into Maya, I'm going to explain to you guys where those problems are. Alright, so let's just go to the Windows Explorer and check the size and dimensions of this photo. Okay, the photo is 2306 pixels by 1000 pixels. So we're going to take note of this number. Okay, so first go to Maya and create an image plane. So go to Create, Polygon Primitives and Plane and click on the option box. Okay, so let's just bring back the Windows Explorer and selecting the image, and if you look at the bottom you should be able to see the dimensions 23, 06 and 1000. So I'm going to use the units of 2.306 and I'm going to leave the unit height as 1. So it's 23, 06 and 1000. For the width and height settings, I'm going to leave it at 1. Okay, since I'm using Maya 2015, in order to create, I just simply click on the surface and the plane would have been created. So next, I want to assign the image as a texture map on this plane. So I'm going to right mouse click on it and then select Assign New Material. And I'm going to assign a surface shader material. Right, so I'm going to go to the surface shader properties and under the out color I'm going to click on the checker box pattern here and I'm going to choose File. Alright, and then I'm going to select the texture of my modeling subject, which is this photographs of the lady here. Okay, if you don't see the texture appearing on the plane, you will have to press number 6, okay, to turn on texture mode. And if your texture happens to be very blur, you can go to the renderer and enable viewport number 2. Okay, so it's under renderer, enable viewport number 2. But if you observe carefully, you have seen that the plane, the texture has some issues here. Okay, so select the plane. Okay, make sure you are in polygons mode. Okay, and under edit UVs, select the option normalize. Okay, the normalize function will force the entire UV space to make use of the entire texture space. So if this doesn't work for some reason, make sure that you reset the normalize option box. Okay, make sure you reset it. Okay, and then apply it. So you should end up with the texture applied onto the plane. Okay, make sure you don't press number 3 as well to subdivide it. Okay, so keep this at level 1. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to scale this up, scale this plane until it fills up the entire grid space. Okay, I do not want the texture reference to be too small, otherwise it'll be very difficult to move the vertices in small increments. Okay, so once I scaled it up, okay, I'm going to freeze the transformations. And next, I want to slice this plane so that I can move the front and side references around. Okay, so I'm going to go to the Edit Mesh Tools. Right, or under Mesh Tools, because I'm using Maya 2015, so the menus will be slightly different. Okay, so for the Edit Mesh in Maya 2014, it will be called Edit Mesh. Okay, all these Mesh tools will be under the Edit Mesh options. So I'm going to Mesh Tools and I'm going to rip this menu by clicking on the dotted line and placing it next to me, because I'm going to make use of the Insert Edge Loop tool later on. Alright, so I'm going to use it now, Insert Edge Loop 2, and start to slice the image. Now notice that when I click on it, it cuts multiple edge loops for me, This is not something that I want, so I'm going to press Z to undo. Okay, make sure you go to the option box, which shows the tool options of the insert edge loop tool, and you want to reduce the number of edge loops, okay, to just one. Okay, and I'm just going to hit reset tool again. Okay, and make sure that it is at relative distance from edge. Alright, so I'm going to click on insert edge loop, okay, to slice one edge loop right across here, and then I want to insert edge loop to slice one edge loop right across here. Okay, I'm going to press Q to go to select mode, and then I'm going to select the middle face here and delete it away. And take note that we are still dealing with one object. Okay, so I'm now going to duplicate this object. So pressing Ctrl D to duplicate and pressing W to move it. I'm going to move the new object upwards. So all I need is the side view for this object. So I'm going to go to face mode, select one of the front texture faces, and delete it. I'm going to the bottom original plane, right mouse click to face and select the side view and delete it. Okay, I'm going to select the duplicate, and I'm going to go to the channel box, and under the translate Y, I'm going to press 0 to move it back to the same plane as the front reference. Okay, so now the next step is I want to adjust the references until they line up. So first I'm going to select the front view, press E to rotate, then holding down J at the same time and grabbing the red line, and you'll be able to snap rotate 90 degrees. Now if you observe the lower left corner, you will see the numbers, okay, around here. You'll see that it will snap rotate to 90 degrees. Or you can also go to the channel box here and enter the values in the x-axis manually. Alright, so now I'm going to do the same thing for the side view. Select it, holding down to J. We're still in rotation mode, and snap rotate it 90 degrees. Alright, okay, then I want to center the pivot, so go to modify and center pivot. I'm going to do the same thing from the front view. Select it, modify, and center pivot. Okay, so now I'm going to observe very closely, okay, the references that I have. So I'm going to the front view, tap the space bar to bring up the marking menu, and go to front view. And let's look carefully at these two references. Okay, I'm going to move them closer to one another so that I can zoom in closely. I'm going to close these tools settings so that you can see clearly. Now there is a obvious scale difference. Okay, as you can see, I'm just roughly trying to line up the chin here. You can see that this reference is smaller than the front reference. And if I zoom in closely, you can see that the side reference, the girl is smiling slightly, so the edge of the lip is actually slightly higher. And another thing which I've observed is this mole. If you take a look at this mole and you compare it with this mole, you realize that this mole is actually this mole. So we are given the wrong orientation of the side view. Okay, so this is in fact, okay, the if I were to say this is the left view, but if you will look at this front view image, okay, the mole is in the wrong position. Again, how can I tell? If you look at this mole here, there are two moles here, 1 and 2. You look closely here, there is also two corresponding moles, 1 and 2. So my conclusion is this image here should be flipped. So I'm going to rotate and flip it. And because we have applied the texture onto the plane, if I were to rotate this 180 degrees, it should flip it, okay, perfectly as a mirror image. Okay, so I'm going to manually go to the channel box under the y-axis, and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. Okay, so now if you look carefully, the two moles correspond with each other. Okay, but right now there's still the problem of the scale. So I'm going to adjust these planes slightly, this reference plane slightly. so that I can make sure they line up and they are scaled properly. So I'm going to jump over to the perspective view, and I'm going to tap the space bar, go to perspective view, and I'm going to grab and select both of these planes at the same time, pressing W to go to move and push them back. Okay, right now notice that when I push them, they are moving in their local axis. This is not what I want, so I'm going to undo. I'm going to double click on the move option, and then I'm going to change the move axis to world axis, and I'm going to push them back. So now you can see both of them are moving according to the world axis. So notice I'm pushing it back behind this dark line. So right now I'm behind the x-axis line. So if I go to the front view, okay, I should be able to see the grid line behind this, but apparently for version Maya 2015 this is not happening, so not a problem. I'm going to turn on X-ray mode, okay, so that I can manually select this and move the face until the center line you see here cuts directly at her center line of her face. Okay, so this is the bottom of this black line you see is the bottom of the grid space, or rather where the building grid is located. So I'm going to move this front reference all the way up. Okay, likewise I'm going to move this one until I temporarily line it up first. Okay, to the chin. Okay, I'm going to click on this button to turn off X-ray. Okay, now I'm going to create a locator to act as a guide for me to line up the chin. Okay, so I'm going to go to create locator, and then I'm going to scale up the locator. Okay, pressing R, I'm going to scale up the locator until you can see the line cuts across both references. Then I'm going to press W. I'm going to move it up until it touches the chin of the front reference, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this side reference, and I'm going to gently push it up until it touches her chin, like this as well. Okay, now I'm going to create another duplicate of the locator by pressing Ctrl D, and then I'm going to pull it up until it lines up with the edge of her eye. Okay, I'm going to use her eye, the edge of the eye here, as reference. So obviously you can see there's this massive scale difference. Okay, so I'm going to select this plane. I'm going to hold down D. Okay, so holding down D will activate the pivot shifting gizmo here for this object. So I'm going to grab the y-axis line here, and then I'm going to pull it until it lines up with the locator line at the bottom of the chin. So you do that, holding down the D and pull it down until it lines up. Okay, why do I do that? Okay, I accidentally moved that just now. So anyway, why am I doing this? So by pulling the pivot at this location, I'll be able to scale this, alright, and it will still, you can notice the chin will still be lined up to the locator line. And I can manually scale this by grabbing the yellow cube here, the scale manipulator, to scale it uniformly until the edge of her eye lines up, okay, with this side. Okay, so far so good. It looks pretty much lined up. So I'm going to create another locator line, and then I'm going to pull it down, and I'm going to line it at the edge of the hole here, of her nostril here. So I'm going to grab this locator, pressing Ctrl D, and then I'm going to move it down. I'm going to use my front view as the standard reference. Okay, and then I'm going to check and see, does it line up? Okay, we have an interesting problem here. The chin seems to be lined up, the eye seems to be lined up, but the nostril doesn't seem to be lined up at all. Okay, so that simply means that when the photo was taken for the lady in the front view, her head is tilted upwards a little bit. So for the side view, I'm going to grab her, the side view, and then I'm going to rotate this slowly. Okay, for the rotation, it'll be a good idea to move the pivot up to the jaw level. Okay, I'm going to move it up to the jaw level right about here. And then I'm going to rotate this until her nostril lines up. Okay. In fact, right now her eye doesn't line up, and then the chin actually goes down a little bit. So I'm going to rotate down just a little bit more. Then I'm going to go to move mode, and then I'm going to move up slightly until the chin and the nose and all the 3 points line up. The tip of the nostril, the side of the eye, and then the bottom of the chin. So if you check, now all of these lined up. Alright, so I'm very pleased with this lineup, and then I can freeze the rotation of this reference. Okay, now the next step is optional. I just want to cut these faces to make it, or rather cut this reference so that it is a little bit neater. So I'm going to use the cut faces tool. Okay, remember for Maya 2014 is inside your edit mesh tools. Okay, so I'm going to use the cut faces tool, and I'm going to just start from this edge and drag it and rotate it until I can cut a straight line above. Okay, and now I just want to cut a straight line down from here, like so, and then from here, and then right above, just before her nose. Okay, I do not want to cut her nose. I just want to cut a straight line down vertically like this. Okay, so now I managed to cut this plane, and then I have all these additional faces. By going to face mode, I'm going to select the faces and delete it away. But the end result is that I have a perfectly aligned facial reference. Now it is extremely important that you get these images lined up perfectly first before you start any 3D modeling. Because if your references are not lined up properly, it's going to cause you a lot of issues when you're modeling your face. Okay, so once this is done, now you need to rotate your references accordingly. So I'm going to jump over. Okay, for now I'm just going to close this tool settings. Okay, I'm going to jump over to the perspective view using the marking menu. Okay, I'm going to select the front view reference. I'm going to press W to go to move, and I'm going to push it back. And then for the side reference, I'm going to select the side reference. I'm going to press rotate, holding down to J. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees forward like this in the y-axis. So, and the next thing I want to do is I want to press W, and then I'm going to push it back, okay, until I have enough space in the center of the grid here to create my 3D head model. I don't need the locators anymore, so I can drag a box over them and then delete them away. The next step I want to do is to put these references in its own layer. So I'm going to select both of them at the same time, and then go into your channel box layer editor tab, and then click on this button, create new layer with assigned selected objects. Okay, so that now I can have the option of hiding them and clicking on the center button to keep them in reference, so that I would not be able to select and move them. Okay, next I want to create a new layer. Okay, for the first layer, make sure you name them accordingly by double clicking on the layer 1 and calling it reference. Alright, and then for layer 2, I'm going to just call this the working layer. Okay, so just checking the options to make sure that the make new layers current is not activated. So make sure you highlight the working layer, so whatever objects you create will now reside in the working layer. Or sometimes you have to manually put it in if it's not turned on by default. Alright, so now we got our images reference lined up. We're going to save it. Okay, I'm going to call it head modeling, and then save.